Did you find just over the course of your career, as you would get new projects and like new challenges, let's say at different levels of complexity and ambition, that they came at times where, thankfully you had the prior experiences that you had, like as we moved to talking about The Last Dance, like if you had the opportunity to do that, let's say much earlier in your career, do you believe that you would have been prepared for that? Or did you have to kind of experience some of these other projects to get there?
There are no shortcuts. And that comes with learning your trade, whatever it is, learning oftentimes by mistake, finding your voice. And it's not just in a creative field. You can find your voice as an accountant. You can find your voice in a million different ways, but how you navigate your chosen profession. You don't come out of college and you don't come into your 20s just knowing how to do that. It's not like, being a basketball player and just having a preternatural talent to come out of high school and go straight into the NBA. Even those guys, it takes them a while to find their footing. So I would have been terrible. Oh my God. Last Dance, when I was in my 20s, I would have been terrible. Last Dance, 2 years before The Last Dance, I would have been terrible. Last Dance was my first real opportunity to delegate and quote unquote coach and put people in the right positions. Because up until then, one of my biggest failings is that I would get very impatient trying to do things myself. I taught myself how to edit because of that. Like that, just move over, I'll do it. And I'm sure that rubbed a lot of people who trained to be editors the wrong way. And I'm sure I did that, countless other examples of that, editing or not. There was too much work to do that. We had 4 full-time editors on staff. I was doing some editing as well, but we had 4 full-time editors on staff. There aren't enough hours in the day for me to have said, all right, move over, I'm going to do this myself. I'd still be editing if that was the case. So, and there were certain people who were better at certain things. There were certain people who were better at editing verite footage, and certain people who were better working with archival footage, and certain people who were better editing montages and cutting to music and hitting beats. Instead of saying like, oh, so-and-so said, this guy Ralph is a great editor, hire him, I trust so-and-so. Couldn't do that because oftentimes those people, they're good at what the person who recommended them for needed them for. But maybe you need them for a completely different purpose. So it made me more vigilant about doing the work, interviewing people, getting to know them, seeing where their strengths were, and putting everybody, I hope, in the right place to succeed. Where also, it's a better product. The outcome is a better product because they oftentimes are better than I am at this, and they feel empowered, and thus they're way more enthusiastic and happy. And the happier and more enthusiastic your team members are, the better the final product is going to be. That was a huge lesson for me in that, you know what? Give people the autonomy and the trust to say, I need you to do this right, and trust your gut. I trust you. You're here for a reason. That was a big mantra of mine towards the end as we were like really on deadline, is you're here for a reason. You were hired for a reason. You're on this team for a reason. Flex that muscle. Make us proud. Go. So that was a huge, I didn't have it for Andre. I edited a lot of Andre by myself. It was a joy to do because that was just a one-off doc, and that's all I was concentrating on. Last Dance was really 10 docs in one. So I didn't have the mental bandwidth, not to mention the physical.
So I want to talk about kind of the preparation that went into The Last Dance, because originally it wasn't going to be 10 episodes, right? I think it was originally maybe 8 episodes, and then even the research leading up to it, and then all the interviews that you had to do during. What did that look like? I want people to get a sense of like what the scale was of that. I mean, I believe you spent 2 years just doing research.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so July of 2016, Mike Tolan, the executive producer, came to me and told me about the project. And they already had a deck made for the project. And at that point, it was outlined to be 8 episodes. And one of the final pages of that deck had 10, this was for distributors, because they were still deciding who was going to air this thing, who was going to buy it. And it was to prove to distributors, we have some big names here. So the final page was 10 potential directors. And it was like Peter Berg, Spike Lee, my friend Ezra Edelman, who did the OJ doc. Ezra was by far the least known person on that page. And I'm looking at Mike like, what am I doing here, man? Like, no one can even pronounce my name if they see my name on a paper, but they certainly don't know who I am. So I felt like it was like, they got 10 no's, And then they started going through their Rolodex and they finally got to the H's and they said, all right, let's call Jason Hehir. I think that's where the little brother in me came out. All right, good. I'm going to show you that I can do it as well or better than these people. Who knows if that's true or not? But the competitor in me, I turned into the 8-year-old in my backyard playing wiffle ball at that point, wanting to prove to my brothers that I can play with them and their friends. That's what those directors, those 10 guys on a page, that's what they were to me when I saw that. So I went into kind of bunker mode for 2 weeks and wrote out a 14-page outline of what I thought the 8 episodes should be. That made its way to Jordan's people and some execs at the NBA. And then I had a meeting with them. And they said to me, do you think that this can be 8 episodes, wall to wall, just the footage from 98, no interviews? And I said no. And that's when I thought, this is not going to happen, because I can't tell them yes. And then, because it won't work. As bad as I want this job, it will not work. We need current interviews from people. And I think this should be about more than the 98 season. We should use the 98 season as a lens to examine that era. It was very cordial. We've all had meetings where it's like, oh, you shake hands. You say, all right, we'll be in touch. And like, it went fine, but I probably won't hear from them again. And I called Mike and said, like, I need to re-articulate what I wanted to articulate to them, because the meeting ended before I thought it would. And he said, all right, they'll be in town again and I'll set something up. So he did, and he wasn't there. And there was an assistant who gave me an address for this second meeting I was going to have with them. This is now at the NBA headquarters. And it was one of those like soupy hot New York City days. Cloudy, about to thunderstorm, 96, high humidity. And I'm in a suit with no tie because I wanted, like, this is the first time I met these people in person now. They transposed the numbers on the address of the building. So I ended up about 12 blocks down Fifth Avenue from where I should have been, and showed up after sprinting in that weather. And I'm a sweater anyway, in winter clothes, basically. Got to that meeting 15 minutes late, and I didn't realize that they were told, Jason wants to present something to you. All I wanted was to continue the conversation in person. And I figured, as long as they're there, I'll just be in this meeting and say hello, and when I'm called upon, I'll speak. Luckily, I made a bunch of notes to myself on my phone on the way up in the Uber, because if I didn't do that, I would have had to improvise a speech, because I got there, and if I moved, I was going to start pouring sweating. And they said, take off your jacket. If I took off my jacket, it looked like I had just jumped in the Hudson River. And I said, no, I'm good. I'm chugging water, trying to cool my body temperature down. And now I have 8 sets of eyeballs turned at this big boardroom table saying, okay, why'd you call us here? I'm thinking, I didn't call you here. You invited me to this meeting. But then we just had a really honest discussion about, I was saying to them that I thought that this could be more than just the 98 season. And that was kind of a pivotal moment. But that was, August of 16. They had to internally, between the NBA and the Jordan brand and this production company, they had to decide how they were going to divvy up their pie of the back end of this project. And I wasn't privy to those conversations because I was just going to be a hired gun as a director. So I went off and did Andre the Giant during that. But all the while, on the way over to Paris to shoot in Andre's village, I was reading Michael Jordan books. All the while, I was researching the entire time when I was juggling these other projects, just in the hopes that it would be necessary at some point. So it wasn't until September. I know the date. I'm good with dates for some reason. But this was 2 days before my birthday. So it was September 27th, 2017 is the first time that I was on my way to the gym, and I got a call from Michael's manager, and she said, how soon can you be up in Midtown? Michael's at this hotel, and I have him. It wasn't like he wanted to meet me. I think he did not want it. He did want nothing to do with it. But she said, I have him here. Come up, have a drink, and leave. I just want him to meet you and get comfortable with you. So quickly, threw something on, got in an air-conditioned Uber this time, did not jog up, and that was the first time that I met him. But that was well over a year after I had started researching this thing, and then we didn't roll cameras until June 26th, 2018. So it was a very, very long, it was almost 2 years of research before we first started filming the project.